Hello, this is Darn Pretty Smile from the YouTube channel. I'm a screenwriter and a creative person, and you can find me on daniellepsmith.com or on Facebook as Danielle P. Smith. This is the second video I've done as a book report from a book of my collection. This is a different bookshelf than my last video. I basically pick up a bunch of books on sale really cheap. Anything that sounds remotely interesting, I like to spend, $1, $2 on some books. And this one can be found on abebooks and half-price books for under $5. This is called Divided Sisters, Bridging the Gap Between Black Women and White Women. I started reading this on January 10th and finished on January 21st, 2020. I just kind of, when I started reading it, I was just like zooming through it. I just found it really super interesting. It was published in 1996, 24 years ago, but it is still very relevant. It was co-authored by a white woman and a black woman who had previously written a book together about colorism, Midge Wilson and Kathy Russell. You'll have to excuse me, I'm upstairs and it's really cold. We don't have climate control upstairs, but I just wanted to show off a different bookcase. So the tone of this book is really well researched and it's hopeful. There are 54 pages of references in the back, so they definitely did a lot of research, just scholastic research and then talking with people. So that really helps with getting a wide variety of resources. It starts at the very beginning of women arriving to the Americas in 1619. African women were brought as slaves, and white European women came basically to help populate the area. You're talking about like women from London, the streets, like people who were prostitutes or waifs or ne'er-do-wells, people who were religious dissidents and stuff. And basically these women had to pay for their voyages with indentured servitude for 4 to 7 years of hard labor, which is obviously nothing like what the African women had to endure. But it's just kind of a interesting arrival for both sets of women. So this book covers a whole bunch of ground. It talks about the relationships or lack thereof that developed from the time that both sets of women arrived, how the fight for suffrage went wrong when white women kind of basically said, well, it's getting harder to pass this with black women, so let's just kind of make sure that white women get the vote. And that's kind of the first bit of issues that have developed there. I mean, there's always been issues, and this book is trying to talk about why and how. They talk about the difference in household or culture and traditions and how that shapes the women's view of the world and how that can create chasms where they talk about black women or white women, like how they view the world really makes a difference and how they interact with each other. It talks about sexual tensions, reflecting on the way very real issues that started in slavery when white male slave owners would rape their black slaves and the children were property. And the forbidden interaction of black men and white women and how that in modern times it's created friction when you have interracial relationships and why that is, like why black women are so opposed to seeing white women with black men and certain things like that. It even talks about lesbian interracial relationships. It talks about how black women and white women grow apart with age, because when you're very little, you don't even care. You don't know. But when you're getting older, you understand the differences, and it points out, black people understand the difference of race faster than white people. Gee, wonder why that is. And how different challenges come up in each stage of schooling, and how, during college and in the workplace, and how much more disadvantaged black women are in the workplace, and how white and black women are both grappling for space in a white man's world. A lot of times black men will get ahead first before white women, and then there's black women. And of course, they talk about the fact that obviously there's more than just white and black people in this world, but they decided to cover this ground because it's there's a lot of ground there. Let's see. They also talk about social activism and the ways that things like forced sterilization and early eugenics affect black women's viewpoints on reproductive rights, and how white women care for children differently on their own or within a community, or even when lacking community. Like black women will have more of a community than white women will, and it talks about like adoption versus abortion and how that kind of works. It talks about groups that didn't want white people to adopt or foster black children, and how that issue created more Black children in need of homes, and how thought processes may have changed on that. And since obviously it was written in 1996, it's changed a little bit. There's different issues there, and it talks about the intergenerational relationships between white and Black mothers and their biological children, and issues that arise, or how those relationships can promote good interaction. They talk about Black women's power imbalance as domestic help, and the portrayal of Black women in literature, film, television, songs, and how race can play into representation of women. As a white woman with maybe a little bit more knowledge than the average white woman, this book was still really interesting to me. The benefit of this book is it allows a person to hear about the concerns of others without bothering people in a conversation one-on-one. Not every Black person wants to explain race and culture to inquiring white people, so white people will definitely want to check out this book to get a perspective without bothering somebody. The authors point out that Black women are often very well aware of white culture, so that's kind of a survival mechanism. But it's definitely a book I think that is needed by both sides in order to get real dialogue going. The situations in this book are relevant for many cross-cultural conversations and diversification, so it's not just white and Black, it's any cultural group, any racial or ethnic group that needs to learn to communicate with other people. This book leaves you feeling empowered to listen to others, which is the first part of learning about others in order to fight common problems and have stronger solutions that benefit everybody. So I really hope that you will search out this 24-year-old book and read it for your own knowledge and communication enrichment, so that we can work together to make this world a better and more equitable place that acknowledges and makes room for everyone. So that is my shivering upstairs in the cold in front of my bookcase review of Divided Sisters, Bridging the Gap Between Black Women and White Women by Midge Wilson and Kathy Russell. Again, I said you could find this for less than $5 on abebooks, ABE books, and Half Price Books. Well, I check Amazon and other places for that. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this book, and I think that other people can get a lot from it, no matter how you identify. Alright, thank you, and I hope you guys keep reading. Check me out on Danielle P. Smith on Facebook and daniellepsmith.com. Find out a little bit more about my pursuits as a creative person, hopefully a screenwriter, hopefully paid working member of the WGA someday. Yeah, so read on. Oh, and what did they say at the end of Hearing Impaired? I recommend you read this book, but don't take my word for it. Da-da-da.